Hi there, welcome back to the 2x4 Chef, and we're going to continue with our eggplant parmesan that we're going to make. And as we saw before, as I made the sauce, what I'm doing is I'm doing up the finishing touches on some of the frying of the eggplant, which I'll take you through. So I don't want you to feel like you've been cheated, but to sit here and fry all the eggplant that I've had to fry would take about an hour or so, and I'm sure you just don't want to watch me frying eggplant for an hour. It is not that exciting. So what I'm going to do is we're going to finish up these couple of pieces in there. And what I did is I went to the farmer's market and I got, there was a whole bushel of these, people call them baby eggplants. I just call them like a more medium-sized eggplant. Eggplants can get to be this big. Now, some people believe the philosophy of vegetables that the bigger the vegetable, the better, and it's not necessarily so. Especially with when you get to root vegetables, like you get into cucumbers, or not a root vegetable, but cucumbers and root vegetable, but giant cucumbers and giant zucchinis, giant eggplants, they lose flavor as they get bigger. It's like a lobster. People think if you get a 10-pound lobster or a 20-pound lobster, they're going to be phenomenal. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to be, because they're so old and the meat on them is so old. It's the same thing with vegetables, and that's why I decided to get the baby eggplant this time. So what I did is I cut up all the eggplant, and then what you have to do with eggplant especially is you see here is these seeds. Now these seeds are very, very, very bitter. So what you have to do is you have to cut the eggplant up and then sprinkle salt, kosher salt, just on one side. You don't need to do both sides. And then what we do, it extracts the bitter juice out of the eggplant. It takes about an hour. And then what we're doing here is I have an egg wash, which is just a couple eggs, and I scrambled them up, and then I have simple Italian breadcrumbs, which you should use when you're making your eggplant parmesan. So I'm going to throw in these two pieces here and get that going. And what we'll do is I'm going to show you what I did is I peeled the eggplant. And why did I do that? Well, there's two schools of thought. Some people believe that the skin is bitter, and some people like the skin. I like it both ways. Actually, I'm making this for a family tonight, and they like it with the skin off. So I am removing the outer skin from the eggplant, as you see, which it really isn't that difficult. You can go get an inexpensive peeler if you don't already have one. They're really easy to use, and removing the skin is no big deal. If you don't get all the skin off, it's not really that big of a deal. I personally, again, like the skin on. I think it adds a nice texture. What you're going to do is you have to take your eggplant and you're going to slice it into about, I would say, 1/4-inch pieces, like one, like this. Now, since this is a smaller eggplant, you're going to get smaller pieces, and I have not used the really small pieces because it really doesn't benefit when they're that small. They happen to, it's just sort of a hassle to work with very, very small pieces of eggplant. And what you do is you spread them out, and what I've done is I put them on a rack like this. These are the finished eggplant pieces. You can see they're golden brown. When I salt them, I put the salt on and put them on top of here and let them sit. I am going to salt these, but also, I am going to use them really quickly. It's not going to make it that big of a deal. It's only like 3 or 4 pieces, so you're really not going to notice it within the cooking process that I used eggplants that didn't have it soaked out. I apologize, but this is TV, quote unquote, and we want to keep it going. I have the 2 pieces in here, eggplant that are already done. We'll take those out. Now you want to use canola or vegetable oil. You do not want to use olive oil when you are frying eggplant. It's super expensive. It's not necessary. It's much simpler to just use a simple canola oil that you can buy. It's very inexpensive. You really don't need a lot in the pan. You put about a quarter of the pan full of the canola oil, and make sure that you have it on a medium heat. As you go on to cook this and fry it, the pan gets hotter and hotter, so you have to watch it and keep it going. If you don't keep it going, then what happens is that the oil, especially a canola oil or vegetable oil, has a lower heat point. So it's going to start smoking at a much lower temperature and burn. And you don't want to do that, especially when you're going to be using your egg, the frying for, an hour plus. I'm kind of fortunate and I have a deep fryer, but I have such a small kitchen now, I really don't like to use it. It takes up a good amount of the counter space, and it's really not conducive to, working in a small kitchen. And it's much quicker than using the fry pan, but for all of us, and especially me as well, that have fry pans, and it's easy to fry. And just be careful when you're frying always. It is not, make sure you don't get splatter water around, make sure that you watch your heat at all times. Use good utensils, please. These, they look like rubber, but they're not. They're heat resistant, like my spatulas are heat resistant up to 400 degrees, which is very important when you're cooking. You want to be able, especially on a non-stick pan, you don't want to use metal on a non-stick pan. Never. It scrapes the coating off. It's really not good for you when you do that. So that's why I've elected to use these really great utensils that they have out there now. And it's really a pleasure to be able to use these type of utensils because it makes life a lot easier. Now, remember, you always need to clean up your area. As I said before, it's very important to work from a clean space. I always like to have my space clean because you're working, and when you're always working with food, if you don't have a clean space, then it just gets messy and everything gets dirty, and you have less to do when you're done, and you can go enjoy your meal, especially if you clean as you go. There's nothing worse than at the end of your meal that you have a giant mess that you have to deal with, especially if you have guests or you're on a date. You don't want to say, oh, can you excuse me, and I got to do the dishes. Well, I mean, for some people it's fine. It's nice they get together and they do the dishes together. But you want to enjoy your company and not have to be cleaning up all the time. And one thing about making eggplant parmesan is that you can do the process of making the eggplant and you can let it it can stay out all day after you fry that. I use my oven right now as storage. Why? Because I don't have a lot of room, and especially as you see, I'm going to show you again, these pans they're pretty big baking sheet, what we call a baking sheet. So if I leave them on the counter, they take up a lot of space. So what I like to do is I like to use my oven as my area that I can keep things in while I'm cooking. And that's the beauty of the eggplant. The eggplant won't go bad if it stays out all day after you cook it. It's been fried, cooked. It's just a great and versatile, easy vegetable to deal with. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put together our eggplant parmesan. Now, as you saw before, I made the sauce. So the sauce is already made and ready to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to move your hot oil out of the way. It's always important now, especially as I said before, I unfortunately have an electric stove. So with an electric stove, you're always going to have an element exposed. So what I like to do is cover it so I don't accidentally touch it. Or once again, if you have a small guest or kids in your house, they can come over into your kitchen and touch your element, and then they'll burn themselves. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take my hot pan and I'm going to slide it inside my oven. And I'm going to, voila, pull out the other tray of eggplant that I did. So now you see why I didn't want to bore you with frying eggplant for an hour or so. And you definitely have the idea of what you need to do. Now, you're going to want to, when you have the time, always make sure you can get really, really good bakeware. Good bakeware is a pleasure to work with. This is from a company called Émile Henry out of France. They are an old company. They make beautiful bakeware. It's some of it is not super expensive. You can find it, but it's easy to work with. It's easy to clean. It's got great colors and great shapes. And I like to use this for baking when I'm baking. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to assemble our eggplant. So let's get everything as close as possible so you can watch. And we're going to also need cheese. Now what we have today is I have a fresh mozzarella cheese that I bought at the store, and I already pre-sliced it like about 10-15 minutes ago. I also have Parmesan cheese, which I like to use. Why? It adds a nutty texture because you're going to be layering the eggplant layer by layer in this dish, and you're going to do a layer of sauce, a layer of eggplant, some cheese on top, and then some more sauce, and until you're done. And some people just use mozzarella as their cheese. I like to combine cheeses. I think it adds a wonderful flavor. Or any of you ever had a pizza that had 4 cheeses on it or 3 different cheeses, and it has that wonderful, wonderful flavor to it? Well, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to put one of my pans here with the eggplant to lay it out. I'm going to move this out of the way from making the sauce. We're going to put my cheese up here, and I'm also going to finish cutting the cheese. Now you can cut it lengthwise, and now that I'm towards the end, it's kind of difficult. Let me move this out of the way. You want to keep slicing. Now you can do that, but if you lay it on the fat end down, you could just do cuts like this, and it's easy to cut. It gets at room temperature. And with some of the smaller pieces, you can cover it with a smaller piece. And I always like to save a piece for me, because I love cheese, and who doesn't love cheese? And let's get our knife, put that away, and make sure we're clean. And now we're going to take our sauce, which we made earlier. Now, the sauce has been sitting for over an hour when I cooked it, and all the flavors have meshed together. And we're going to use like a ladle, or a spoon, if you have a spoon that you could use. This is a nice size spoon, and what you want to do is stir your sauce up, and you want to lay about, I'd say, a whole spoonful down. Now what has happened is, remember the bay leaf? Well, the bay leaf was in there. All you need to do is take the bay leaf and throw it back in. Why is that? Well, I like to keep the bay leaf in the sauce at all times until it's over, and then then it comes out. So what we've done is we've layered the bottom, and you can cover it pretty well. You can use a little more. You don't have to be shy. You can put a lot down, but for the bottom, it's not going to stick to the bottom of the pan, so you really don't have to worry about it. Now, what you will need to do for the next step is I have several different types of graters, which are easy you can buy at any store. This is sort of the old-fashioned style, only it's a single piece, where you remember your grandmother or mother had the ones that stood up that had the 4 corners. Well, these are great because you can hang them. They're easy to work with. You can lay them over a bowl. And graters I like to use now are handheld like this. This does a nice fine grate. You can grate over anything with it. It's easy to operate, and that's what we're going to use to do the Parmesan cheese. And what I like to do also is, instead of using the whole piece on it, we'll cut it in half so it's easier to work with when we grate it. So now you're going to layer your eggplant Parmesan. So you take each piece and you lay it in one piece at a time, and it's very easy. Look. It's not art, and it's not science. Well, it is art, I'm sorry. And you would want to lay and cover the bottom with as many pieces as you can, or each layer as many pieces as you can. Sometimes it's not going to be even. because they're not even. They start big at the end and then they get smaller. You can make it a little tighter if you want. So we have a little piece down here. Put that over here, and we'll get this nice piece on there. And then what we're going to do is you're going to take the mozzarella cheese that I've started, and I have a nice piece here, and I'm going to break it up into pieces. And they say you want to put a little piece on each piece. Now you could run out of cheese this way. That's why I bought a big piece, and I use little pieces as well. It doesn't have to be a huge slice on there, or you can put huge slices on there. It's a preference of how much you really want to use on your eggplant. Some people like a lot of cheese, some people like little cheese. Now, what I'm going to do, instead of grating the cheese on top of this, I'm going to do another layer of sauce, and we're going to go coat it like this. And you can see the different texture of the sauce. You've got the pieces of diced tomato in there, and you have the regular puree in there. It's all worked in together, and that's what I mean about textures. So when you bite into this and cut into it, you're going to get those different layers of textures and flavors. Just crunching into a tomato is really great, whether it's cooked or not cooked. Tomatoes are just a wonderful step to use. Here's my grater, and what we're going to do is we'll move this out of the way, the cheese, so I'll show you. And you want to hold your grater over, and with a motion, because the grate sticks up, so you have to go away from yourself, and you just do just like that. Isn't that nice? And now you don't need a ton, because you're going to do several layers. And tap when you're done to get the cheese out from the grater, because that's the best way to do it. So see the cheese, how I layered it, and we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep layering more and more, and I'm going to speed up a little bit to get this done, because I'm behind a little tonight, and I have to be at the family soon, and they are waiting patiently for this. So we're going to layer our eggplant in again. Beautiful layers of eggplant. Okay. Then we're going to take our cheese again, and we're going to just do some on here. I want to make sure we get every piece on every piece. I know that's redundant, but it's true. And this is, it's an easy process to do. It's really not difficult. And here we go with another layer of sauce. And we're not the super kitchen on television where we would already have another one of these done. This is going to feed. This can feed up to 10, 12 people easily at one sitting. Or a family of 4, you can have one meal, and then you can freeze the rest or keep it in the refrigerator if you're going to use it during the week. It's great for lunch. You can heat it up in a microwave. It's great, honestly, out of a microwave. And I know microwaves, a lot of people don't like to cook with them, but it's a necessity of life to have a microwave now. That you get, it warms it up easily, and it's all, you've got the cheese, it's all melted, and it gets the sauce. And since it's not thick, as it's not a meat, then it's easy to deal with. So one thing about this type of meal is you can stretch this meal out for yourself for a long time, or for a family. And once again, it's inexpensive. I bought 6 eggplants and made the sauce and everything and the cheese, and it cost me about $15 to make all this. I find that very reasonable, inexpensive. It's a good meal. It's not meat, so it's really vegetarian. If you want to go that route and call it vegetarian, it's vegetarian because you're eating nothing but vegetables. But this is a classic dish. You want to call it a poor man's casserole, you can, but it's really not. I mean, the King of Kings have eaten eggplant. There's no, it's just soul food is really what it is. This is traditional Italian soul food, and you know, you can, like I said about the sauce, depending on the regions and that, everyone makes it a little different. You will find eggplant mostly is made the same, only some people make it in huge stacks. Some people don't. Some people like it the traditional way. Some people fry it in olive oil. You know, the true Italians will not use canola oil or vegetable oil. They're going to use olive oil. And I'll tell you, I've made it with olive oil. It can be a little greasy. You do get that olive oil flavor, which you can't beat. So I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying it's, you know, it's an option, but it's a more expensive option to use olive oil when you're using it to fry. And we don't. Once again, one of the keys here, and what I like to do here at the 2x4 Chef, is to make your meals great and affordable. And it's very important today that, let's say, all of us are watching our pennies. And some of us, you know, we can't go out to dinner. We don't buy a lot of expensive meats and foods, but I'm going to show you once again how to make great dishes that are inexpensive, and you know what, they're fun, and you can have them to your friends over. And I forgot to do the cheese because I'm so busy talking, and we don't want to forget the layer of cheese, do we? Here we go. I knew somebody would catch it, so I have to get it myself. We're almost done. In fact, we're down to the last layer. There we go. We'll get the last layer in, and we're going to use all the rest of this, which should work very well. And here's these small pieces, which I did a few of them because I knew towards the end you're going to have to use as many as you can. There's a great, there we are. Look at that. Look at that great layer. So now we can use bigger pieces. And get these, all this nice cheese in there. In a way, when this melts, it melts down through. You got those really nice layers of cheese and two different types of cheese. There we go, like this. Doesn't that look great so far? We're almost done. We'll put the last finishing touches and put some more sauce on top. And once again, you know, if you have any questions or concerns, or, you know, didn't understand something, please email me at 2x4chef@att.net, and I will answer you right away. I'll be more than happy to give you a printed copy of this, how to do it. You can watch the video again. Obviously, you know, that's the best way to what we call an instructional video. And we'll put a little more of this here. Look at that. Oh my God, that's great. I mean, you're nothing but love this. How can you not love this? It's just fantastic food. It's the end of that piece. And we'll just put a few more touches of mozzarella that's left over on the top. And we are going to be done. And there you go. There's your eggplant Parmesan. And what you need to do, the next step will be, is you turn it on your oven, you preheat your oven. When you start to put this together, you preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And you cook this for about 20 minutes until it starts bubbling. And since I didn't pre-cook it in the oven to show you, I'm gonna actually show you what it's like after we cook it tonight when I'm with my friends and family. So I'll see you in a minute, and thanks for watching, and I look forward to our next meal. Hi there, guys. Well, sorry for the little delay, but here we are, and our eggplant parm is finished. And let me pull it out and show you. This is what, when you know it's done. See how it's bubbling and the cheese is melted? Just looks amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it out the oven and put it on this beautiful trivet and let it sit there for a second. You don't need to let it rest. What you need to do is dig in. So we're going to cut some up here. Let me get a knife. And it's easy to cut through the eggplant. You know it's done. And it's all bubbly, and you can smell just all the flavors together. And that's what makes it such a great dish. It's just great comfort food. And like I said before, it's not expensive to make. It's easy to do. Actually, you can do it with a group of friends too if you want to have someone do the frying and someone do the dredging of the flour, and you can make a party out of it, actually. So I'm just making some nice squares. And you will spill some over the side. There's just a lot of... There we go. So let's take a piece out from center here. And there we go. And look at that. And there you go, guys. There's your eggplant parmesan. Enjoy. And let me know if you have any questions, and you can email me at the 2x4chef at att.net. See you soon.